Hey friends, in this video, we'll go over how to create an information architecture map using flowcharting, card sorting, and tree tests. Before we dive in though, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more awesome tips on information architecture. So just as blueprints are the most valuable document for an architect to use in the construction of a building, information architecture can be the most powerful tool in a writer's arsenal. However, developing one isn't as simple as putting a list of features together and mapping out how they work. So let's investigate further. Having a single document that delivers a simple and understandable representation of the application or website and how it works is vital for developing new features. And what that really means is mapping out how the website connects with itself and the app connects with itself, and that's, again, information architecture. It'll help you update existing features and see what's possible considering the existing product. With information architecture available, it becomes significantly easier to make key decisions for new features and implementations, to understand timelines for product changes, and to follow user behavior through multiple processes. So where do technical writers use information architecture? Well, when setting up knowledge bases, linking existing documentation, and making documentation easier for users to find, and across listing products, across content, whether that's blog content, and much, much more. And it's important that you have a good grasp on this, because if you don't understand information architecture, you can have the best content and documentation, but your users may never find it. As part of the user experience process, information architecture design follows very similar patterns to flowcharting. You want to add shapes and connect them with lines in an organized fashion to a single document. The challenge when building information architecture is in understanding how your app or website actually works from the user's perspective, and how to organize that information into a readable, legible format. And there are two major requirements for actually constructing IA. And that is organizing it through a visual hierarchy. That is a hierarchy of features, functions, and behavior, and creating a legend, which is the wording explaining the symbols for displaying different types of features, interactions, and flows. I went ahead and included an image here of a flowchart where it has a legend. It will give you an idea of what it is. And that way you have a better understanding. And with a standard flowchart, the shapes follow specific requirements. So rectangles are often processes, diamonds are decision points, and so forth. The most important factors to building your IA are where individual components of the architecture are placed, so hierarchically, and how they're labeled and displayed. And we'll see an example in a minute. When building IA from scratch, unless your website or application is following a standard format, drawing out anything after the top level is very difficult. It's like asking a mechanic to build a car from the top down instead of in parts. Each piece has to be constructed in advance with its own research, time for design, and development. The same is true with IA. Displaying visual hierarchy is a valuable asset to information architecture, not only because it provides better context for the reader, but also generalizes key regions of the product to help people understand it better. If your app's most significant feature, for example, is ordering a ride, so let's say it's Uber or Lyft, which can be done from the homepage, then that page will have the most touch points and the most value to the product. The same will be true for the visual hierarchy when it comes to that app and that experience. Sitemaps come in handy for understanding hierarchy since they organize pages numerically, such as 1.0 would be the homepage, 2.0 would be the payment page, and 2.1 would be the add pay method, and so on and so forth. Or consider the example here for Duke University's library website, where the top navigation isn't only at the top, but also highlighted to be visible across the entire application. The structure of Duke's site is straightforward. The homepage displays global navigation links plus content, and each global link links to a variety of pages of relative stature. Aside from the hierarchy, the architecture in the Duke example does another thing well. It displays every engagement point uniquely as needed through a simple legend and a few key phrases. The legend denotes page and content type, and it signifies variations between colors of shapes. This is important because though Duke's site appears fairly simple, the IA only goes 3 levels deep. Each yellow rectangle denotes an application, so the process within each of those boxes aren't included in this document, otherwise that might just be too much in order for someone to visually comprehend. Even without those parts available though, the structure is such that we can understand how to navigate the website through the IA alone. And that stops when we reach an application within the website, as we just mentioned. And it doesn't have to though. You can keep taking it deeper if you want it. In this example, the information architecture is for a game. Using 4 shapes, no colors, and smartly placed text snippets, every major interaction is understandable without prototypes, and more importantly, it can be understood by anyone working on it. Now, this model isn't perfect, but it organizes app hierarchy clearly and delineates what the user either sees or does at any given point. Now, let's talk about tools to help you visualize information architecture and share your visualizations with a team. These are all linked in the description below the video. And there are plenty of software applications that allow for building an IA, but few are simple and quick enough to make the experience enjoyable, or at the very least, easy to manage. So the first one that came to mind was Draw.io. And it's used in the video, linked in the description below this video, so make sure to go ahead and check it out. There's a whole video on how someone uses it to draw information architecture, which is great. It's a must watch. And this tool is free to use and is both for personal and professional use and automatically plugs into Google Drive. It also has integrations with Confluence and Jira, which are paid though. Draw.io is excellent for flowcharting, creating user flows and information architecture. And with Drive functionality, multiple people can work on the same document and see changes live. And you can see an example of a flowchart here created in Draw.io and how simple it is to understand. And there's also a free offline version because I know many people do like to work offline. Now we have Lucidchart, which is another great tool that provides a slightly better experience than Draw.io and has additional benefits like pre-built templates, many more integrations, and support for enterprise. Another method to improve and lay out the information architecture of a product or website is to use card sorting to see how participants or prospective users naturally group items. To summarize a card sort, it involves writing items on separate cards. Then you place them into categories and subcategories. In Amazon's case, they would write sneakers, heels, lotion, perfume, and much, much more. You may also define certain categories such as a category for accessories, one for shoes, clothing, and have participants sort the cards into those categories. You can also leave it open-ended and let the participants create the categories that make sense to them. And I went ahead and linked to a case study and additional resources in the description below to give you a better idea of how card sorting is done. Now, if you're going for a senior technical writer interview or senior UX writer interview, this is something that you need to know because often it's asked by companies like Google, Facebook, and more. And once you've analyzed your card sort and created a navigation structure, conduct a tree test. What is a tree test? So a tree test is basically a reverse card sort. It evaluates a hierarchical category structure or tree by having users find the locations in the tree where specific tasks can be completed. And such tasks include what go into finding the best, let's say, dog treat for Australian Shepherds. Now, questions you might ask would include, where would you look to find that participants will click into the category where they expect to find the item? How many times a participant successfully and directly went to the correct path or went to the wrong path? What about initially going on the wrong path, but eventually finding the correct one? Having a display of those items and paths can help you track your progress of creating the information architecture and making sure that it really focuses on all the different touch points. Now let's go over some best practices of information architecture. While there are a few defined rules for what constitutes IA, when going through the process, consider the following. The first is don't focus on hierarchy, focus on structure. Hierarchy is adjustable. The homepage will always be the homepage, but where it leads, how users get to those places, and everything in between and beyond is determined later. Next is all processes need logical explanation. Even though the IA and the UX process is for user interactions, every step of the way has to make sense. Registration screens shouldn't lead to settings, a camera function shouldn't jump to a map view, and the list goes on and on. And remember the UX process. A common mistake is to just make IA without resources, research, or other assets or work. That's like telling an author to write a book without an outline, or a programmer to code an app without prototypes. And keep in mind that you are a map maker. And just like map makers, technical writers determine what goes into the IA design. Individual pages, specific user behaviors, context for decision points, and so on. Ultimately, the map maker decides what goes on the map based on the user needs. The same is true for us writers and technical writers, UX writers, so construct the IA for the end user to better help them find the content that they need. Now, it's a common misconception that any information architecture work is truly done. because it grows and shrinks and changes as our products do too. Unlike a blueprint for a building, IA will always evolve based on anything from user needs to new features or a product overhaul. Much of the structure may stay the same and provide consistency between versions so users don't get confused. And that's a good thing. Knowing that IA is a fluid document, one that likely changes weekly, and sometimes even daily, is a powerful way to maintain the overall documentation and content to support your app or website without ever touching the code or creating new prototypes. The better the entire product development team knows the IA, the faster everyone will know what is and isn't possible, and how serious any supposed easy work really is. And there we have it. In this video, we covered how to create information architecture, from diagrams to flows to card sorting and tree tests. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And I'll go ahead and see you in some of our following videos. Cheers.